Hi folks, Vipin here. Welcome to a brand new set of videos on my channel. And this is different from the academics part. What I will do in these set of videos is I will explain the latest current affairs, whether they're happening in India or whether they're happening abroad. And I'll simplify this so that you're able to understand it without much difficulty. Okay, now I'm doing this channel because I find a lot of Indian media hyping things up and many times giving incorrect information or information which is not politically correct. So I would like to go about explaining things in the most simple and the most rational manner. So let's get started with today's episode. Okay, and we will be talking about the 1962 war between India and China. And if you remember, since the past couple of days, the BJP government has no longer uh, gone ahead in declassifying the 1962 war reports. Now, this is something that happens in almost every democratic country. Like if you had a war that happened about 30, 40, 50 years ago, the reports of that war are made available to the public. Now, that is what they refer to as declassification. For a long period of time, these reports are held very secretive. And now, these bits of information which were secretive will now be made available to the public. So, this is what they mean by declassification. Now, what happened was when the Congress government was in power, they also refused to go about declassifying the 1962 war between India and China. Okay, they refused to go about declassifying that war, and the BJP government went on to, because the BJP government was the opposition party, they went on to go about doing political mudslinging, saying that how can you not go about releasing that? Now the irony here is, even when BJP government has come into power, this report has still not gone about becoming declassified. Now, I'll give you more information about why this declassification is so important for a person who happens to be a citizen of India. Okay. Now, before that, let me explain why did the 1962 war actually happen. Firstly, it was a sovereignty dispute for a part of Kashmir and Arunachal Pradesh. Now, what happened was the Chinese slowly started to, how would I put it, intrude into Indian territory. And when I say intrude into Indian territory, I mean they started to do that by the construction of a road. They went on to construct a road between Tibet and Xinjiang, which was probably the biggest reason why the war actually escalated. Now, even now, if you come across the Chinese insurgency is quite common in around Kashmir and near Arunachal Pradesh, where, if you remember in the past, the Chinese have in fact gone about installing their flags. They have painted their flags on the mountainside on some rocks, and even recently, especially I think it happened in Ladakh, where the Chinese happened to camp 30 square kilometers into the Indian territory. That is, within India's borders, they walked in 30 square kilometers and occupied the whole thing. Now, the Chinese are a little risque in all these things. They are not conservative like most countries. The Chinese are people wherein if they want something, they try to take it by force. And they do that without really worrying about the consequences. So in 1962, they did pretty much the same thing, and India went into war because of that. Now, why is the declassification so important? First of all, India is a democracy. Okay, and in a democracy, you have information which should be made available to the public freely. Yes, there is a lot of information which require to be hidden due to national security measures. But come on, the war happened like 50 years ago. Okay, since it happened 50 plus years ago, I don't think there are any major secrets to hide when it comes to something like this. Sure, you can keep secrets like, okay, what is the Indian defense working on right now? Or what is ISRO working on right now? But there are a lot of things that happened long back in the past, and this should be made available to the public. And then It shows the integrity of the political system. Now, when I say integrity of the political system, when Jawaharlal Nehru was the head of India, the Prime Minister of India in the 1960s, he played a major role in this particular war. So, as a citizen of India, I want to know what are the decisions he took in that particular time when the war was happening. Now, the reason I say that is because a lot of the decisions which these generals take, which the colonels take, which the brigadiers take, which the majors take, this could have actually gone wrong. And that could have actually resulted in the death of many soldiers. Now, any decision taken by the army, the navy, or the air force is all documented. Okay, it's all documented. So, when a decision is taken by a general or a brigadier, this documentation is kept classified. It's not made available to the public. You and I will hear it in the news saying that, okay, if you remember the Kargil war, we hear that, okay, today about 15 Jawans died in the Kargil war. We don't really get the complete details upon their death. Why is it that they were traveling in this particular route? And what was the reason why these Jawans actually were killed? What was the incorrect decisions taken by their commanders that actually resulted in their death? Now, this is something that is actually kept classified. Now, the reason they do that is because if you make this information available to the public, you will hear a lot of uproar. The public will go about questioning. You could even see riots just because one person actually took a wrong decision, and that led to the death of our soldiers, unfortunately. This is something this is something which is actually published in these reports, and they're kept hidden away for a long period of time. If you remember, there was a lot of spying that would happen between America and Russia during the Cold War, and the secrets of what these guys would actually do has been made available to the public only recently. Now, I came across things like how the country leaders would encourage espionage, encourage spying. And one of the interesting ones I remember, which the American leaders in the 1970s did, was have these cameras hidden within the buildings of the Soviet Union. What they would do was these cameras were so sophisticated for 1970s technology, they would be able to drill tiny holes within the walls and slowly emerge out and record conversations through these cameras. Now, that is something which is really, really interesting. And the Soviet Union, if they got to know about this in the 1970s itself, that okay, these guys are doing things like this, then the Cold War could have actually become a real war. But now that they got to know about it only recently, they can't really do anything about it or because of an incident that happened about 40 or 30 years ago. So, this is what I mean by political integrity. So, Jawaharlal Nehru took a lot of decisions during that time. He would have consulted a lot of people who are maybe questionable in character. I'm just saying that could have happened. And all that is something that would have been documented. And now, of course, it's hidden away. And then, of course, it gives closure to the family. Now, knowing that okay, my relative who was part of this war happened to die, that's not really a reason for a family to accept. They want to know what he was doing at that point during the war. Why was he traveling here, and why did he actually end up getting shot? Why were these guys taking a pretty risky route towards China, and that resulted in their death? So all that, like I said again, is documented and classified. Declassifying them will allow these families to know what really happened and what was the real cause of the death of their loved ones. So this is one of the reasons why declassifying the 1962 war report is so crucial. Now, in my opinion, I am under the impression that the Congress government didn't want to declassify them due to some very, very sensitive reasons. And now, ever since the BJP government went through these reports, they too found something which is extremely sensitive, maybe of national security importance, and even the BJP government has decided to no longer go about declassifying them. I'm guessing it's something which both the political parties agree on, may be an issue on national security. And that's one of the reasons why they actually didn't go about declassifying this report. So, this is something that's been in the news since the past couple of days. I hope you found my explanation helpful. If you like my video, please hit the like button and do go about sharing it as well. Thank you for your time. Have a nice day. Bye.